Well, we have some catching up to do as I was away for a few days for holidays, camping up in the Ottawa area. It was kind of nice just getting out in nature, kind of getting off the grid for a little bit, and then coming home and catching up on all the results from the NHL draft after the first round, and also preparing for the CHL Import Draft, which got underway earlier today. But before we get into all that, just a reminder, I'm continuing to do the OHL season by season series, looking back at the OHL and how it got to where it is today. And you will notice in the videos that are happening around now, I'll still have the beard as I was recording videos ahead of time, so I wouldn't have to record a video every day. I wanted to give myself a bit of a break to spend time with the family, unless news events came up like today. So let's dive into it as the Brantford Bulldogs had the first OHL pick at the CHL Import Draft. The first overall pick belonged to the Kelowna Rockets, who acquired that in a trade from Moose Jaw. But since this is an OHL channel, let's just focus on the picks involving OHL teams. So first things first, remember the Brantford Bulldogs acquired the second overall pick from the Peterborough Petes. They had a player that they had their eye on, and it was Adam Benek from Czechia. He was selected with the second overall pick at the CHL Import Draft. And for Benek, he played for the Youngstown Phantoms last year in the USHL. 56 games, 17 goals, 42 assists, 59 points. So over a point per game. But he's a little on the smaller side. He's 5'7", 164 pounds, but he's 2007 born, so expect him to still grow a little bit here. But still, the Bulldogs went out of their way to acquire that top import draft pick from the Peterborough Petes and have decided on Benek. They have a lot of confidence in this player, and it'll be interesting to see how his game will translate from playing in the USHL last year to the Ontario Hockey League. Obviously, they still need to get a commitment from Benek, but you have to figure if a team's going to be trading for the second overall pick, they had to have an idea in mind that he would report to the Ontario Hockey League. But still, pretty exciting times here for Brantford Bulldogs fans with Adam Benek being selected as the first player from the Ontario Hockey League. The second pick, it belonged to the Flint Firebirds. They acquired this from the Guelph Storm. It was the fifth overall selection at the CHL Import Draft, and they went with Daryl Ujanskis from Latvia. And for Ujanskis, he is a left shot defenseman. He's got the size, 6'2", 194 pounds, 2006 born. So this is a player that could come in and after playing with men over in Latvia, also represented Latvia at the World Juniors. Just one assist in 5 games, but still he's got that competitive edge. And we'll see if they can convince the Latvian to join their team for the 25-26 season. And the Ottawa 67s, they were the third teams to select from the Ontario Hockey League. They had the 8th overall pick, and they went with Andrei Rummel. He's from Czechia. A lot of players from Czechia being selected at the import draft from the Ontario Hockey League. And for Rummel, he played in the Czech Junior League, just 2 assists in 5 games. But in the Czech 17 League, 9 goals, 31 assists, 40 points. Now remember, he is a defenseman, and still 40 points in 41 games of work is not too shabby. He's also a 2008 born player, so he could come over this year or maybe next year. There are some import players that usually wait before they make that trip over the Atlantic to play in North America, and this could be a project here for the 67s going with Andrei Rummel. Now, some other interesting selections in this import draft. The Owen Sound Attack, they had the 14th overall pick, went with Matus Kurasik. He was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres right after Bedkowski at the 2025 NHL Draft. And for Kurasik, 6'3", 180 pounds. So he's going to be a tough one there for offensive players to go to the net, as he does have that physical presence, which will be a big factor, I would think, playing at the Bayshore in Owen Sound. Now, another very interesting pick came from the Sudbury Wolves. They went with Artyom Gonchar. If that name is familiar, well, Sergei Gonchar, his uncle, played in the National Hockey League. So we'll see if Gonchar will come over from Russia to play with the Sudbury Wolves as early as next season. But just it's always neat when you see those bloodlines from the NHL going forward. So Gonchar could potentially be playing in the Ontario Hockey League as early as next season. Continue with the bloodlines, Alex Mishiak. He's the brother of Martin Mishiak, who played for the Erie Otters for the last 2 seasons. And Alex was drafted 32nd overall by the Erie Otters. He's from Slovakia. and last year played with the Waterloo Blackhawks. So I would expect Mishiak to sign a commitment with the Erie Otters, depending on what his older brother had to say about his experience in the Ontario Hockey League. But I would think it's all good things, as Mishiak had some great success during his time with the Erie Otters, and we'll see if Alex Mishiak will get the same results as his brother did. And for the Barrie Colts, just looking at their first round pick, what really stood out to me was the goal totals of Andrei Gudin. He's a Russian born player, but last year playing with Ohio AAA BJ16, 56 games, 61 goals, 54 assists, 115 points. This is a player that has a nose for the net, all about the offense. But what stands out here is his size. He's 5'5", 137 pounds. He's 2008 born, so he's got time to grow, and we'll see what he can evolve into if those numbers translate well to the Barrie Colts going forward. But yeah, 115 points in 56 games. That really stood out to me, and that's why I wanted to highlight that here as one of the players that stood out in the first round of the CHL Import Draft. You can go to the Canadian Hockey League's website. They have all the results there from the 3 rounds. Remember, this is the first year where CHL teams can now have 3 import players on their roster. So a big change going into next season. And we'll see how this transpires for all 20 teams in the Ontario Hockey League. Now, not everyone who's selected this year will make a commitment. You might have to wait a season before they arrive. And that's exactly what happened with the Sudbury Wolves, as they've announced that Jan Chovan has signed with the Sudbury Wolves after being their first round import pick last year. Now, Chovan, he was selected by the Los Angeles Kings at the 2025 NHL entry draft. He's got the skill, the size to bring over here to Sudbury. The Wolves management team, they had high expectations that he would eventually join the team, and that's exactly what they're going to get. So pretty exciting times. He's 6'3" and 190 pounds from Slovakia. So Sudbury Wolves fans, I think you have a pretty good prospect here to look forward to joining the team ahead of the 25-26 season. Now, another import who has signed is with the Kingston Frontenacs. And remember, they acquired Tomas Pobezal from the Kitchener Rangers earlier in June, and he has signed a commitment to play for the Kingston Frontenacs ahead of the CHL Import Draft. Kingston's done a pretty good job with imports lately. Look at Tuomas Jurinen. They acquired him from the Ottawa 67s before the start of last year. Jurinen, remember, he suffered an injury while with the 67s, and then with Kingston, just lit it up. And of course, has been rewarded with a contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll see if Pobezal will follow that similar trajectory as Ronan. But still, Pobezal will be with the Kingston Frontenacs when training camp opens at the end of August. So another exciting signing of an import who was drafted in 2024. So that just goes to show anyone who's drafted this year, if they don't report for this upcoming season, there's still that off chance that they'll still join the club in the future. Now, I was on holidays, or actually before we get to that, we did have a first round pick signed. Let's go back to signings, this time with the Erie Otters. Jake Murray, who was selected 12th overall, he has signed a commitment to join the Erie Otters. There's a lot of excitement from hockey fans in Grey Bruce. Murray is from Meaford, Ontario. He is 6'2", 176 pounds. He plays center. This is a player that you kind of build teams around. He could become a core player for this Erie Otters team. Expect him to be in the bottom 6 this upcoming season unless he excels with this team early on. But I kind of view him as a player like Cole Beaudoin of the Barrie Colts, who had the size as well after being drafted. It took him a year before he finally developed into that forward that would just drive to the net. Expect that for Jake Murray too, as he adapts to the OHL and this level of play. But still, excitement and congratulations there to Jake Murray signing with the Erie Otters. Now to the trades, just ahead of the trade freeze when I was on holidays. I wasn't able to do any reports on these 2 trades, so let's dive into it now. First of all, the Niagara Icedogs have traded Blake Aerosmith and a conditional 7th round pick in 2028 to the Soo Greyhounds for the playing rights of Sebastian Del Elsie. For Blake Aerosmith, this is now 3 teams in 3 seasons. The Niagara Icedogs, they acquired him from the London Knights early last season. With Niagara, 43 games, 7 goals, 8 assists, 15 points. Niagara going through a bit of a transition here. We've now seen a few trades involving this team. The most recent, of course, being Max Crete, who was sent off to the London Knights. It just seems as though we're just seeing some adjustments with the locker room. Obviously, there were some situations that took place in the second half of the season, and with this team trying to change the culture, that's why they brought in a player like Grayson Tiller from the Barrie Colts, for example, trying to change things to have a positive, attitude going forward. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Crete or Aerosmith. I think it's just a bit of a refresh or reset with this Niagara Icedogs team. But I think for the Soo Greyhounds, getting a pretty decent player here in Blake Aerosmith. We'll see how his numbers translate moving to the Soo Greyhounds. But for Niagara, taking a chance here on Sebastian Delelsi. He played with St. Andrews College last year, 55 games, 4 goals, 34 assists, 38 points. So not too bad for a defenseman. Now, remember, when they acquired Monks in that trade from the London Knights, the question was, would Monks sign a commitment with the Niagara Icedogs? So now that question comes on Delelsi. He does have an NCAA commitment to Quinnipiac University, so he is NCAA bound at this point, but we'll see how this all plays out and whether or not he reports to the Icedogs after they gave up Blake Aerosmith for his playing rights. And the last trade to touch on between the Kingston Frontenacs and the Flint Firebirds, Mason Vicari. He's going to the Flint Firebirds for a 14th round pick in 2026, plus 2 conditional picks, a 5th in 26 and a 6th in 26. Vicari, he's got some decent numbers. Last year, 25 games, 3.13 goals against average, 886 save percentage, 11-4-1-3 was his record. Now, last year was a reduction in games played because in 23-24, Vicari played in 59 games. Maybe he was overplayed that season, but we know what he's capable of. And right now, Flint having some questions when it comes to goaltending. Does Nathan Day come back after signing that entry-level contract with the Edmonton Oilers? He had that great run in the ECHL once last year was over. So does Day come back? Plus, Flint, they just drafted a goaltender in the import draft. So some competition in the crease, also with the overage situation. So we'll see what happens with Mason Vicari. But still, if they decide to go with Vicari as an overage goaltender next year, I think the Flint Firebirds are in a pretty good spot. I feel as though he's a goaltender that's capable of keeping this team competitive and stable through the regular season. And we've seen that in the past where an OA goalie, such as Owen Flores, can really take charge and really carry a team. And that's exactly what Flores did last year with the Niagara Icedogs. So stay tuned on that front, see what Vicari can do if he in fact does play for the Flint Firebirds next season. And the final news item to touch on involves the Kitchener Rangers, as Jack Pridham, right now at development camp with the Chicago Blackhawks, and he was asked about his future for playing. He has a commitment to Boston University, but a rumor came out that he was going to waive that destination, and he has made it official. He plans to no longer attend Boston University and wants to sign a contract with the Chicago Blackhawks. So what happens is, if he signs that contract with Chicago, he's no longer eligible to go to the NCAA. It's like that for any player who's drafted. Once you're signed that pro contract, you're no longer eligible to play in the NCAA. So for Jack Pridham, it's either Chicago or the Kitchener Rangers at this point. So it's an interesting tidbit. We're so used to seeing players right now making commitments to the NCAA, but now we're seeing a decommitment, which is something a little different. We haven't seen that yet, but we're still learning as this goes along how this whole situation is going to play out. So that's how I see it from the booth. My voice starting to strain a little bit here. So that's where I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you very much for all your support. Feel free to comment on any of these news items down below. Love to see the interactions. Thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.